All right, well, today we're going to get started on really talking about the survey database. If a lot of people, this is something, if you didn't have a specific survey class, which I only provided to the survey service group, you might not even know about this whole piece of the program. That's called the survey database and the survey tab. You might not even see it up on your computer. It's right here, this survey tab. So we're gonna dive into this. We should be, this class here will go beyond, even if you were in the survey service group class, this will go beyond what you learned in there or fortify it. Depends how much you've been using Civil 3D in the last couple of months, but I think everybody, even our WizKid Donnie up there, might learn a couple things about Civil 3D, hopefully, from this presentation today. So let's get into it here. It's going to be a little basic in the beginning. It might cover some topics you already know, like I said, but just bear with me and try to keep paying attention a little bit. I think you'll pull some things up. We're going to talk about these transparency commands up here, which not a lot of people I see are using, but are very useful tools. I'll get into that. All right, so when you first open up the program, of course, you have the prospector tab here in the settings tab. Again, a lot of times when you first open it up, you have that active drawing view. We're going to have to switch that to master view. And of course, if you're building survey-based mapping, typically a project's not created yet. So we're going to go ahead and do that. So assuming there's no project for today, we're going to go ahead and, of course, you have to log in to Vault. So go ahead and you'd right-click on projects and hit log in, enter your username, ID, and so on and so forth. Something we covered in detail in boot camp, so I think everybody has that under their belt. And I'm going to hit new here. I know we covered this as well, so I'm just going to type in my project name for today. Again, if you were doing this at your desk, just to reiterate, it would be the project number here at HRG, so it would be 6 digits, underscore, and 4 digits, and that would be it. Since this is training today, we're just going to use this survey class. Always make sure that the use project template is checked and just hit OK. All right, so that builds us a project in here, and it puts that in the Vault. And really, the template gives you this folder structure here. Okay. Next part of this is we always want to start a drawing from a template. So we want to start that initial drawing here to bring this information in. To do that, we always want to start by right-clicking on the templates down here and hitting Create New Drawing. If you first launch Civil 3D, you notice it does open with a drawing here, this Drawing 01. And you can go in there and you can actually see this is started with the template because it has styles in it. Now, the program's very tricky because Drawing 1, when it first opens, is started from the template, but if it opens a Drawing 2, 3, or 4, when checking files in and out, those are not started with the template. I live by the law. Don't trust it. Just always come down here, carefully click on this slowly, and hit Create New Drawing. I've also noticed sometimes if I right-click and hit Create New Drawing, sometimes I do a little quick, and I'll get the electrical template. Luckily, there's some information in there that sort of right away because there's some text on the screen, so you're thinking what's going on there. So you can back out of it. Just be careful and make sure you get the Civil 3D 2009 template. Okay. So now I have 2 drawings open up here. I'm going to close the Drawing 1, and in Drawing 2, I'm going to have to save this somewhere. So I'm going to just do a Save As, and I'm going to save that here on my desktop. And I'm going to name it the project number. So it's 6 digits, and no spaces, underscores, dashes, none of that. It's just 6 digits and 4 digits for the project number. We covered that in detail, but I still see them out there. Stop doing that. And you put an EX after it for the existing condition space file. Now, if you're in survey, that's your service group. Of course, you put an S in the front. That's our standard for the survey service group now. But if you were building base mapping and you're another group, like myself, I'm in land development, I would put an L in front of this if I'm building this land development base map. Just because it's existing conditions does not mean that survey owns it. If you built it, you own it. It's your base map. Now, if you're doing work for survey, under surveys management, talk to them, see what they want you to name there. But, I see some base maps that other service groups are building in Civil 3D, and they're putting an S in front of it, and that's not your service group. The S is for survey. The EX really pulls out the existing conditions piece. So I'm just going to hit save here. Got my LAX file. And the next step I can really do here is I need to open up this survey database. So a lot of computers, if you're right out of the box, you've never used this survey piece of the software before, you're not going to even have this survey tab up. What you can do to bring that survey tab up is just go down to your workspace here. It's this little gear. Click on that and switch to the survey and topography tool space. And that will switch your menus around, and once those menus are switched, you can switch back to yours. I assume before you did that you have your saved. But really what I want to get up here is this survey pull down. And from there I can hit Open Survey Tool Space. Now once this Tool Space tab is added to your prospector, it will stay there for, I really don't know how to get rid of it, quite frankly. I guess I could go and hit close and that would close it. But once it's up, it stays up unless you specifically go and close it. So I'm going to go ahead at this point and switch back to my workspace because I just really wanted to use that to get to that survey pull down. I'll switch back to my MSPATs. And that's really the intent of the workspaces from Autodesk, is that you can switch in between these to get access to different menus. So use those for what you will. All right, it put me in the layout. I'm going to switch back to model space, and this Vault toolbar keeps coming up. I'm always going to close that. And you can see now I have that survey tab available. So the survey database in Civil 3D, you can find it by clicking the plus under projects, the plus under your specific project, and it's right down here. Now, the survey database, again, is a separate database. It's not, I know how everything is in Civil 3D, is in the DWG file, alignments, profiles, so on and so forth, but the survey database, they recognized that it was important to have a separate data set for that. So the points are not in the drawing. Now, I say that, I really should say the points are in two places. They're in the survey database, and then they're inserted into the drawing. But they're locked to that survey database, and that will become apparent here in a little bit. This is an item that needs to be checked in and checked out separately. Also a very good thing. You know, if survey, our survey service group has the project, they built the base map, and you think some points need to be adjusted, you have to go in here and check this in and check this out. They better be aware of that, or they're going to tag you because they'll know that you did that because of the check-in and check-out log. So to open this up, first thing I'm going to do is right-click on it and hit Checkout. Sometimes if it's a new project you're getting into and there's already a database, if there's not a little circle here, the first step you need to do, when you right-click, you won't get a checkout option. You'll get a Get Latest. You'll have to do a Get that copies the database to your C drive, and then you can right-click it again and hit Checkout. So just be aware of that. So go ahead and check that out, and you can see that database is now checked out to me. Nobody else can get into it. Keep in mind, this is a checked out item, so I have to remember to check that back in. Now, if I go under my Survey tab here, you will see that that database is available. If you forget to check it out, it won't allow you to open it. So if you ever try to right-click on this Survey tab and hit Open Database and it doesn't let you do that, that's the reason. You need to go check out the database first. To open up the database, I'm going to hit right-click on it, hit Open Survey Database. Now, typically we're receiving our points. If we're going out and doing it, there's a number of ways. You usually have a CR5 file from the data collector, which is basically just a coordinate file in a different format. An RW5 file, which is really not so much when you have GPS and you're collecting your points that way, but an RW5 is when you're going out there and traversing with a gun piece of equipment, and you have this recorded log, and the RW5 really keeps a recording of which points you're set up on and side shots you made from that, the back sight, so on and so forth. And then if we're getting it from another firm, you're usually going to get it in a text file. So those three options all can be imported into the survey database. The text file, I'm going to show that it's a little different than the RW5 and the CR5, and we'll cover that here in a little bit. What I'm going to start with here is an RW5 from what I understand at HRG, that's mostly what we're using because we're collecting most of our data with a GPS equipment nowadays, so we don't, we really don't have RW5s, we're using CR5s, I think I said that correctly. So CR5 file is what we're going to import. To first convert that to import that in, we have to use this utility under the survey pull down in here. I just, a little tip for you here for coming in today. If you come into Civil 3D, and you have all these menu bars across the top, and you'd like to have more of them, what you can do is you can turn that menu bar on and off with the command menu bar. And then either way, it shows all the menus show up if you click on the C. So what I like to do is I turn that off. So I don't have a menu bar across the top, and everything's right here under the C. And that allows me to add a lot more menus and without cluttering up my screen at all, really. So you'll see me use this a lot. Just want to cover that here real quick. So under this survey pull down, either if you're accessing it by the menu pull down bar or under the little C there, you'll see the survey data collector link. So click on that, and this opens up a separate application that comes with Civil 3D. And this application, it's used for all kinds of things, but I'm not going to go into the details of all this, but today we're going to use it to convert file formats. So we're going to click on conversion, convert file formats, change this to coordinate file, and our CR5s are this TDS coordinates. Hit choose file and go out and browse to your data collector file. There's my CR5 I want to convert, and hit OK. And down here, for the format I need to put it into is an Autodesk, Softdesk, FBK with line work file. So that's a field book file, commonly referred to as a field book. Now there's some misnomers about, so I'm going to make this conversion here in a second, but there's some misnomers that if you convert an RW5, it doesn't generate the line work, because if you click here on RW or raw file, it gives you RW5. See how it doesn't say with line work? Although it doesn't say it, it does use line work. Really, if you're trying to collect stuff and you have RW5s and it's not bringing in the line work, it's just bringing in the points when you're converting RW5s, it's not the it's not this conversion that's making it happen. If you actually open up your RW5 and look at it, the data collector is not putting in the line work codes for you. So that's a data collector thing we need to adjust. I know Donnie was looking up at that up at Survey and came to the conclusion that we don't really use RW5s that much, but I just want to mention that because I don't know if other offices are using RW5s or want to use those and have the line work. Really, Civil 3D is made to use RW5s. But if you're not traversing around and you're collecting everything with GPS, then you don't get an RW5 either way. So just wanted to clear that up. So I'm going to go back here, TDS coordinates with line work, and save my output file. And for today, I'm just going to call it erase me. And I'm going to hit convert. Now you get this message, and right away you think, oh, it's an error message, but if you read it, it says what's successfully converted, so everything's okay there. And you can just close this off and close this program. Okay. From this point forward, you can come back to your Civil 3D application here, and I'm going to lock open this survey tab. And how this works is I can import these field books, but I need to import them into some networks. So like Land Desktop, there is only one point database per project. But a big difference here is I can have as many networks as I want under that point database. So I can use the networks to break things up. Whereas if I received points from some GPS, I want to put those in a certain network, maybe some from doing a traverse, maybe even some from another firm. You can bring that in and keep those points separated by network. So we're going to create some networks here. Before we do that, I want to go over one very important setting, is to set the coordinates of the point database. So if you right-click on the top level here, the O1.survey class, which is our survey database here, the project name, and you need to hit Edit Survey Database Settings. In here is an extremely important setting that has to deal with the international foot versus U.S. foot. And there was a post on this not too long ago. If you go to our HRG CAD Management Channel page and type in I don't know, U.S. foot for search, you'll see it come up. If you are messing around with this survey database whatsoever, you're in our survey service group or not, you need to read this post and be very, and understand it. What the difference is there's two measures of a foot, and when you're talking in millions of feet in length, the difference is 2 feet. So if you have a line that's 1,000,000 feet long and you look at it and you measure it with the international, quote, international foot, it'll be 1,000,000 feet long. But if you'd measure it with the U.S. foot standard, it'd be, 999 and 998,000, feet long, not 1,000,000. Well, that affects almost each and every project here at HRGs because the coordinates for all our points are up in the millions of units, because of the state plane coordinate system and how far our points are away from AutoCAD 00 coordinate. So you must have these things set correctly. So read through that. At the end of the day, from what I understand, we survey almost everything on state plane coordinates. So we're just going to go in here, click the little ellipsis button, and we're going to hit this categories here, and we're going to slide all the way, almost all the way down to the bottom, hit U.S., Pennsylvania. And we're going to come in here, and we're going to set our state plane zone. Usually NAD 83, Pennsylvania, south, or down here in the Harrisburg area, and U.S. foot. If you'll memorize this code here, ultimately, the PA83SF, you could just type that right in. So each and every project you can do that. And once I set the state plane zone, notice that this distance chooser grays out and I can't change it anymore. That's because all geometric coordinate systems in the United States are set with U.S. foot. Everything else is international foot when you're talking, going outside the country. And even a lot of things in the United States are the international foot, but they decided to keep the geometric systems on the U.S. survey feet. Again, that's all explained in great detail down here at the bottom of this post. It's actually some pretty good reading, so check that out if you have some time. If you don't know the state plane coordinate system or not, you do need to set this to U.S. foot. You can leave this blank up top here, and then just make sure that this set is set to U.S. foot. By default, it's set to international foot. I don't know how to change that, so by default, it would be U.S. foot. So it's something you need to be aware of. Anyways, so set that. That was, again, by right-clicking on here and hitting Edit Survey Database Settings. And we're going to make some networks. So right-click on Networks, hit New. We're going to type in the job number. And then just, some survey service group convention for HRG is they just use the job number A and then just B, C, D for all the different field books because they might go out, day 1, day 2, day 3, and that would be a different CR5 and subsequently a different field book for each day. So I'm just going to hit OK there. And you can see this grouping opens up under this field book or under this network. I'm going to right click on it and I'm going to hit Import Field Book. Now I have a bunch of field books ready to go. You can see they're at the same location where I made that erasing file, so it's just a bunch of CR5s that I already converted. Here they are. And hit Open. And I have some options that I need to choose from here. What you see on the screen should work for you out of the box every time. The show interactive graphics, that means as it sort of draws the line work out, it's going to show me, so that's always pretty neat. If you're trying to save some time, turn that off. If, it's a lot of graphics intensive, so if you have any troubles with that, turn that off, and that might alleviate some, if you ever get a crash or something, because it is going through a lot. You'll see it skip all around on the screen. Erase survey points in the drawing, so that's, if I'm importing this again for some reason, doing it, another time, it will erase the points in the drawing and bring them back in again. Reset network. A whole bunch of different options here you can go through. I recommend just checking these on. Maybe my recommendation would be to keep the show interactive graphics off for that point. To understand what each and every one of those is, just hit the help file. It's in here. You can see what each does and what it says, and you can even play around with it a little bit to see which you prefer to use. So for today's presentation, I'm going to show that interactive graphics just because I think it's pretty neat. And hit OK. You get this message up. And basically, this is saying that, a lot of times when you survey, you'll shoot shots twice to check yourself. And it's saying that the point numbers, there's multiple point numbers that have multiple shots that have the same point number. You have to read this thing pretty carefully. Yes, if you want to abort the process. So if you hit yes, it just stops, doesn't really do anything. No, if you want to ignore this error, so that will ignore the one error. Or you hit cancel, just sort of goofy, if you want to ignore this error and subsequent. So we're going to do cancel. All the shots in the file are good. This is a good survey. It's all together. So the last shot that reads 0.2 for the number is going to be the one that's actually used. Hit cancel. And you can see here, it's probably a little choppy on your screen, but because of the webinar software, but it's going to go through and draw all this line work in on the layers and import the points. Then it zooms extents on me. So I can zoom in down here, and you can see the point numbers are pretty big. And that's because I have my annotation scale set to 50. So I'm going to go ahead and change that down to 10. And you can see all my points, shrink right away for me. So these points, unlike in LAN desktop, in LAN there were some commands. You could make them bigger and smaller, a little more steps. They automatically adjust based on which scale you select down there. So that's a nice feature. So we have some more field books to import. So I'm going to hit new again. And hit B. And just keep stepping through the same process. Import field book, B, OK. This time I'll turn off interactive graphics. Cancel. You can see it makes it go a lot quicker. And then, bam, they just insert all in one shot. So you can save some time by turning that interactive graphics off. And then so on and so forth, and you can import those in. So I'm going to skip ahead here because I don't want to have to make you sit through me importing all those. And I'm going to go to my another project here, same thing, and just have all these steps completed and check that file out. Actually, before I do that, let's finish up this process here. Sort of skip there a little bit, sorry. And I want to add this drawing to my project. So to do that, I'm going to hit save. Right click on that drawing, because although I saved this on my desktop, I need to get this into the project. Okay, I got a question here, and Chris, I do appreciate that question. That's a great question that I need to cover. Almost glossed over that. Chris asked, do I need to set the coordinate system in my drawing? And the answer that you can go with that will keep you safe is yes. You do. But why didn't I do that right away? Because my DWG is set to US survey feet, and so is the survey database. So there's no conversion happening there. And what we need to get at here is let's step through this for a second for this setting the coordinate system for the drawing. If I right-click on if I go to the Settings tab, right-click on Edit Drawing Settings, and go to Units and Zone. You can see there's also a coordinate system here. Now, right out of the box, I could set our template to US survey feet, so we're in good shape there. But let's say, we want to set this just to be safe. We'll set it to PA83SF, and that's the Pennsylvania State NAT 83 system there, state band coordinates essentially. So hit OK, and I'll go back up here to my drawing, hit save, and you'll notice nothing's going to shift around. Nothing moves. But the important point here is that if I would want to, say I surveyed it on NAD 83, but for some reason I wanted to make a drawing in my survey database, I actually wanted to draw it on NAD 27. I can set my drawing to NAD 27. My survey is still set to NAD 83. Let me just double check that. Oops, sorry. I need to set that at the end of the day here. Okay, and you don't see it doesn't shift anything around, right? Yeah, until I come in here and I hit, if I right click on the survey database on survey points and hit update, you can see my points shifted. So my line work didn't move, but if I hit zoom extents here, my points moved all the way over to here. Why is that? Well, Civil 3D will do a coordinate conversion from your survey point database to your current drawing on the fly. So if you really want to ever know what the difference is between NAD 27 and NAD 83, it's around 31,000 feet. Okay? If I want to get the figures to update and move over, I would just right click on the figures here, hit update figures. And now you can see all my line work shifted over. So now this drawing's on NAD 27, but my survey database, I didn't have to convert my survey database to NAD 27. I could just convert the coordinate system here. Okay, so that was the question. I see Donnie has his hand up, but I don't see a question logged. So if Donnie, if you want to type that in, I'll answer that. I'll put everybody's hand down until then. So if I wanted to convert this back to NAD 83, I'll just hit Edit Drawing Settings, change this back to NAD 83. Back to my Survey tab, right click, hit Update Points, I click on my figures, hit Update Figures, and you'll see everything slide over. All right. Donnie was saying before you import your figures, you need to set your survey prefix database down here. That's something to make sure you check. When I was going through and I hit a new food book file here, a new network, say I do number 3. See. And I go in here to hit import field book. See where it says this survey, HRG survey prefix library? You need to make sure that that is set current. That's a part of these settings when I was saying the whole dialog here. Take a look at it. That is what tells the points to be on what layer and what line work to draw in. So that's a good point. Make sure to check that as well. An easy way to make sure that that's going to always be your default there is in your survey database over here. If you have multiple, just make sure to right click on it, hit set current. Since I only have one, I don't have that option here to do that. That's why I didn't show it that way. Okay, any other questions from anybody? It looks like we're good there. All right, so let me digress here. Add this drawing to the project. Since it's on my C drive, I don't even have it in Vault yet. You hit next. Select my project, hit next. It's going to put this under model files. I'll give some explanation here. This build files is for supplemental survey. Survey might go out later date and get some additional survey. They want to put it in its own little file. That's what build files is for. Another service group might have that. Sort of drawings they want to make, they're not really base files, but where do you put them? They're not really a solid base file, but I need some place to put them. They're not a plan set. That's what build files was for. So all your main base files should go under model files. And if you have supplemental images or stuff by other companies, you need a location in Vault for that. That's what build files is for. So this is a base file, and I'm going to put it under model files. And I'm going to check this file in. I'm not going to keep it checked out. I'm just going to check it in right here. So that closes that off. One thing that's very easy to forget, and there's people that will vouch for this, I won't mention names, is to check in that survey database. So although I checked in my drawing, if I go under my project here, this survey database is still checked out to me. So that means if I would leave here right now and stop, although I have this survey database populated on my C drive with all the data, it's not in Vault yet. The one in Vault is still blank. So I have to right click on this and hit check in. And that will check in and close that survey database. So if you're working with the survey database, it's like it's own little drawing. You have to handle it independently. So let me slide down here to this other drawing I have where I have all the points imported already. And open this up. And let's talk about how do I adjust these points. So this is the whole project brought in. It drew, a good amount of the line work. It's not, still line work you have to draw in. And I want to do some things to this. Maybe we went out later and figured out that, we assumed some elevation from some information. Maybe we came off a manhole by the authority, something like that. And later in the project date, not too late, hopefully, this whole site needs to be raised up 5 feet. So how do we do that? A good thing about the survey database and when it brings in the points, if you zoom down and grab a point, you can see you get 3 grips. One is to rotate the point. That's what the little green grip is for. Another is to break apart each little, if you click this little circle side of the green, that breaks it apart so I can drag individual little pieces. That's not working for me. But there you go. So I can drag individual little pieces off, right? And then a third here is I can drag the whole label. But notice there's no grip to grip at this point. If points are brought in using the survey database, and this is a good thing, you cannot move the points on the screen unless you disconnect them from the survey database. So this is a very good thing. So that raises the question, how do I adjust these points? What if I need to raise this site up 5 feet? There's no commands I can do in this drawing that will do that for me. What I need to do is look back to my survey database. So let me switch projects here. Close this drawing 3 that it opened up. And I'm going to check out the survey database from this project. And here you can see if I right click, see how there's no circle here? I don't get a checkout option. I just have to do a get latest version first, and then right click and hit checkout. Go to my survey database or my survey tab, hit open survey database. And you can see it's all populated. And before I talked about how this separates points, these categories down here are all the survey points. These are all the figures, which is all the line work. But I can specifically see the points in a certain network. So if you had points from another firm, you could put them in their own network. They would sort of combine into yours. But at the end of the day, you could pull out and see what points are from other different sources. So that's how that shapes together. Now that I have the survey database checked out and open to me, I can come up and use another utility that comes with the program. So it's under the survey menu here. It's called the Translate Survey Database. So this is a translation tool, and this should be familiar to our folks that are surveyors. This is how, at least when I was doing survey, it'd be end of the 90s here, this is how we used all the time. I think it was in that DataLink software. But here you can specify a point, and you can move it, the whole data set by specifying a certain point and then moving it a certain X, Y distance or rotating it. So I'm going to look in here and you say, well, geez, what point do I want to change elevation by? Okay, well, let's just try to figure that out. I'm going to close that quick here. And I want to find where point 1 is in the drawing. And, you could see that it could be a little tedious. Well, there's a number of simple ways to find that location, but I want to highlight a method here that uses the transparency commands. So if I'm going to just type in L for line, come up, and if you have this transparency command toolbar, it's called, I guess they don't have the name on it anymore, but it's under Civil, and it's right here, transparency commands, if you right-click in a blank area. This is a very useful toolbar for doing all kinds of designs, and even when you're doing some surveying and base mapping. There's 3 options up here, and we're going to use this quite a bit in this class and the next class here, wrapping up. The first one is point number, point name, and point object. So we're going to use point number. So I typed in line. You notice I'm still in the line command. I hit point number, and I hit enter 1, and then people get a little goofed here because they don't see it doing anything. Well, if I enter 2, then it's going to draw a line between 1 and 2. You can see it drew a line between point number 1 and point number 2. And if I hit escape, well, then it allows me, it sort of backs up one step, and now it allows me to specify a point, where I could come up and pick another transparency command and say point object, and then maybe pick that point, and it snaps it right to that location. Very, very useful here. In the next class, we'll show when creating break lines for your survey points. So the easiest way, wait for an autosave, the easiest way to find points is really just type in line, go up here, and I want to find point number 889, hopefully there's a point like that, and then hit escape once, and then it will start your line command from that point. You can go in and zoom, here's 889. So in this little exercise, we found that point 1 is here. So we go back out, maybe assuming we got another elevation on this rebar, and we want to change this point so it reads an even 360. And that will adjust all the points by that elevation. So I'm going to hit Translate Survey Database again. Go in here, we're at point number 1. Now I'm going to skip to the rotation, and I have to enter something here, so I'm going to enter 0. And my destination point, so I can even enter a destination coordinate, or latitude and longitude. So I'm going to leave that alone, so it's the same values that it had from the base point here at point 1. And I'm going to go down here, and I'm going to change the difference here, actually. I have to, what do we want to do there? Instead of raising that up to 360, I sort of got off beat. I'm going to raise that, that's 2 feet, and whatever. So we're just going to raise it up 3 feet. Too much pressure. Hit next and finished. Give it a second here. It's going to zoom extents on me. I can zoom back down, and you can see that it raised me up the 3 feet, and it raised the entire project, all the points here. Now, if I had a surface created at this point already, it would raise that surface if it was solely based on the points. If there was break lines and other things involved, I'd have to go ahead and manipulate those. And of course, if I had this full-fledged design on the project, there would be a lot of rework going adjusting those profiles. Of course, all your profiles would update when the surface raised, but you'd still have to update your design to match in. So that's how you can translate and rotate and raise and lower points. You have to use this survey database to do it. You can't, do it through the points. Let me digress here and pull in some points from a text file, because that throws people for a loop. So what I'm going to do is open up another drawing, create new drawing, and say I get points from an outside source, and they're in PNZED format or whatnot. So I need to import those in. Now, you'd think you'd just go to the survey database, right-click on the network where you imported your field book, and there'd be an option like import text file. And there may well be some way in the survey database, but I haven't found it yet. So this is the workflow that I've figured out at least. I'm going to go ahead and in my new drawing, I'm going to hit points, import points. And I'm going to go down and I believe my file is comma delimited, PNZEZD, comma delimited. I'm going to add my source file. Open this real quick. Yes, comma delineated. Okay. Okay, and I'm not going to add them to a point group, just going to have them come right in. Hit OK. So it's going to import those points into this drawing, not into the survey database, just into this drawing. I'm going to do a zoom extents, and you'll see these points. Now, the big difference with these points versus the survey database points is that these are actually live in this drawing. They're not in the survey database any way at all. And you can move them. So this is sort of dangerous to me because, I can go that and I just physically move the point. It's moved. There's no, I can undo and it takes it back. But you can just grab and move the points. And then you can raise and lower them all the standard ways you used to in Land Desktop. Now, one thing you can do there to protect yourself is if you right-click, all the points here are stored since they're in the drawing, right under the drawing here under the points category. I can hit edit points, and I can select them all or select a certain group, and I can hit lock. And by locking those, it won't allow you to edit them at that point. Okay, so it locks them, and then you can't move them around. So if you're just going to stop at this stage, I would definitely lock the points. Another thing you might consider is actually adding them to a survey the survey database, Civil 3D survey database. To do that, I'm going to take this file and let's add it to the project. So I'm going to have to do a save as. Let me save it to my desktop again. And let's call it import points. Okay, and okay, saved it, add it to the project. I'm going to bring it into my Civil 3D project here. And I'm going to do keep files checked out. So it checks in and checks it right back out to me. Okay, and I'm going to switch over to my survey tab. What I can do here is I can make a new network. Okay, so I'm going to right click on networks, make a new network, and you can see it show up down here. And this network is blank. The cool thing you can do is I can right click on non-control points and I can hit create from drawing. And then I get some prompts down here. I can do a certain number, selection, a certain group. I'm just going to hit A for all. Give it some time. It takes a little bit, depends how many points you have. And what it's going to do is it's going to bring those points, put them in the survey database, and it's going to lock them, just like we're used to if you would have brought them from the survey database at the first piece here. So now, it runs its little gamut there. It's all done. And if I click on those points now, I can no longer move them because now they're controlled from the survey database. You can see I have a shield here, meaning I need to hit update on this. I'm going to just right click and hit update network. Same thing down here for figures. And then there you go. So now you're set. If you got points from an outside source, import them in, you can make them part of the survey database, and then go from there and generate your line work. Any questions? Let me switch back to show you the last item here before we round out today. One thing people want to do sometimes is, we get the symbols automatically come in. Let me move some of these things around here so you can see. I can even switch my scale. But say I have this manhole here, and maybe we coded that as a sanitary manhole, and you find out later it's not, or maybe it is. We're going to say it is a manhole, and it's right on the inside of the curb. But that's an awful big symbol for that. Even if it is that large, it's an awful big symbol for it. So you just really want to adjust the symbol size. A majority of the symbols in Civil 3D are set so they auto adjust in size. So you can see down here this light pole, this electric box, this gas meter. So if I switch to say 40 scale, you can see they'll all increase in size. Okay? And if I switch back to 10 scale, they'll decrease in size. Okay? What if I wanted to adjust this so it's a little smaller? Well, all I need to do is click on it and open up my properties palette. And in here I can adjust it and say, well, instead of that large, let's make it half that planned scalable size. So this is in sort of I don't want to say relative units, but this is not in scale units. This is in relationship to what you see on the screen already. So if I wanted it to be, twice as big as it shows on the screen, I can change that to 2. If I want it to be half that size, let's change it to that. And that also works for the adjustable symbols. Whereas if I wanted this light base, say at 10 scale, that's what our drawing set is, but I want the light bases to be a little larger. I can go in, and I should have moved this over before I did that. Sorry. I can go in and say I want the light bases to be, 5 times the size, because I just want my light bases to be really big. I mean, it's a lighting plan. It's very, lighting oriented. They still auto scale, so if I change it to 40 scale, it'll be, it keeps that 4 times larger than what you brought it in at. So that's something that people miss. Is there any questions on any of that information here? We're getting close to rounding out here. I can show a couple more things, but I covered everything I wanted to. Next class, we're going to talk about, taking it to the next stage, how you can, quickly create a surface off of this. We'll start right from here and build a surface and start doing feature lines and, get into more detail of these points. I'll leave this since there's no question. I got a question from Donnie. Very good job, I think. Okay, see ya. Good job. Okay, that's not a question. That's a statement. Next question. The next thing I'll leave everybody with is this. Very similar to the topic I just posted on, and I know I got it out a little late this Monday, but this importing or exporting files. If you go down here to the bottom, there's this tip about a way to increase performance using points. And what you can do in this situation is you can use this no display point group style. And if you move that to the top, I'll show you here in a second. I'll talk about this and then we'll sign off. I'll wait for my autosave, of course. The these points, a lot of times, how do I turn these off? And an important thing to realize is I cannot in Civil 3D go down and freeze all my Z layers. Let me, you'd think I'm a pretty advanced guy. I would use the layer palette, but I don't. I use the old layer dialog. But if I freeze all my points, like we're used to in land, all the Z layers, right? And I hit OK, you're going to see all the symbols disappear because the points, the symbol is a part of the point. It is the point symbol. Now, land used to have a point symbol, which was an X, and then it put a block on top of it. Where in Civil 3D, the point symbol is the point. So those utility poles, that we always hear, the famous utility pole that, were heard around the world that got moved on some project in the 90s that caused all this ruckus, in land it was simple to move the utility pole. In Civil 3D, it's not. If somebody can't mistakenly come in and just grab this sign and move it, and, represent the incorrect area or the incorrect location. That's where that sign is. That's where it was surveyed. It shows right there. I can rotate it around and do whatever I need to do. but I can't move it. So these Z layers are the actual point object layers. So if I freeze these, it freezes all the text in the points. Now a lot of people, and it's okay, we freeze these Z node and Z node TD layers. So you freeze those, and what that does is that turns off all the points that are just little X's and turns off all the labeling. So that's fine, you can do that. But those are component layers, and as we learned in the, turn those back on here. Sorry, somebody called. Let me turn those back on here. Great. If you freeze those, that means that it's still regenerating these points in the background. So how do we avoid that? Well, if we come up here to the point group, when all these points are inserted, they're inserted into point groups automatically. If I right-click on the no display point group and I hit update, so all the points are now in this point group as well. And the order of these point groups is very important. And you can see at the top, all points is on. And let me make sure I have some other settings in here before I get, I need to turn this on. So if it's a new template, this is all set for you already. But what I'm going to do is these point groups can override the labels and styles shown for the symbols. So if I go to this last tab, these overrides, and I check on the point label style and change that to none. So this is the actual text, not the point style itself. The point style is the point, and then the label style is the text. Set that to none, it's going to override. I hit OK. Includes all the points. If I right-click on point groups and I move this to the top, you can see all my text automatically shuts off. Had nothing to do with layers, but my symbols are still available. So that is, and quite frankly, Civil 3D is going to react a little quicker now because it's not regenerating those points and the labels in the background all the time. So that's a little tip, and that's sort of discussed, at the end here of this last post that just came up last Monday. And this is where it also gets into that last post. If you need to export the project out at this point to give it to an outside source, you can simply just go in here and hit export, and the only thing it's going to send them is the symbols you see on the screen, which we send out typically anyways. The points are still in the drawing. It's just not, displaying the labels or the nodes for the other X points, for the grade shots and so on and so forth. So, little tip for you. Questions, I'm extension 213 down here. Hopefully this gets you started in the right direction. Thanks again, everyone.